Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. My name is Ace and I got more TF2 commentary. I'll be playing as a demo knight for the most part, of course, with the grenade launcher. But this video will be a little bit more in depth about both shields that you can equip as a secondary item. The Splendid screen as well as the Chargin Targe. And I will go a little bit more in depth than I usually do for both shields because I wanted to touch upon these two secondary weapons. Because I've been really enjoying them lately. Once again, I am aware that the best secondary weapon for a demo knight, or not for a demo knight, for a demo in general, is of course the sticky launcher. There's no doubt about that. The sticky launcher is incredible if you know how to play it. It's just that it's completely, purely personal preference that I like the shields better for no apparent reason. I just like the charge, I like the defense. But without further ado, let's just get into the Chargin Targe. What you did perhaps not know, at least I didn't, is that both shields are affected by weapon spread. Not sure how that really goes within gaming logic, but gaming logic should not be a thing regardless, let's be honest now. But if you are going to play on a server without weapon spread, the damage is still rather insane and a little bit more reliable, of course. The Chargin Targe is 50 base damage if you connect your with your shield and a charge at the end of your charge to your enemy, basically 50 damage, with an additional 10 damage for each head you can collect if you are using the Islander or an equivalent. Now this basically gets you to 100 damage if you connect your shield to somebody at the end of your charge, which is kinda nice. That's a lot of damage. That is pretty much every single light class going, well, they're going to die, because if you are going to swing once with your weapon, you do more damage than they will ever have. At least more damage than health they will ever have, unless they are extremely overhealed. But 9 out of 10 times, if you find an opening to charge without having too much of a risk upon you, this is not the case. Also, the defensive purposes for the Chargin Targe are of course significantly more powerful than the Splendid screen. 50% fire damage resistance as well as 40% explosive damage resistance. And this could potentially also make you more aggressive, because you won't die as much, because you can take a lot more damage. So not only does this allow you to live longer, but also potentially allow you to play aggressively or more aggressively. But I do prefer the Chargin Targe when I'm going with the Islander to preserve my head counter. Because having that additional health and speed and of course shield damage is just so amazing. I can't stress that enough. But moving on to the Splendid screen, well, like I said, the weapon spread is still a thing, but the base damage is of course a lot different. Not only do you start off with a higher base charge damage from any distance, this is very important. You can charge from any distance with the Splendid screen, but you, instead of 50 damage like the Chargin Targe, you will do 85 damage as a base damage if you connect your shield with your charge to any enemy, no matter what the distance is. I can't stress that enough. That is an amazing thing. As well as 17 more damage per additional head if you are collecting heads and using the Islander, or like I said, the equivalent of the Islander. This is insane. You can basically shield kill every single light class. What the hell? That's insane. In addition, of course, you have your increased attack power if you charge as well, doing more damage with your Islander if we are still under the assumption that you are using the Islander, with the, of course, the benefit of the Islander having the a little bit of a longer hitbox to actually hit your people with, or the enemy with. It's amazing. How can you not enjoy doing that? It's insane. And of course the Splendid screen, because it's still a shield, you do have a little bit of a defensive stat in addition to all your offensive buff that you're getting because of this shield. You have 20% fire damage resistance as well as 15% explosive damage resistance. So it's not a whole lot compared to the Chargin Targe, and if that really matters, I personally don't believe so, unless you are really cutting it close. Like if you normally would have survived or would have been killed with like 10 health spare, a Splendid screen would be able to heal you, or at least save you in that case, because you would have taken you won't have taken that much damage because of all the damage reduction. But if you are going to rely on the Splendid screen for at least for defensive purposes, you're doing it wrong. You should rely on the Splendid screen for offensive purposes. And I just love the Splendid screen if I'm actually using a full, basically the full demo loadout, demo night loadout, which is the Chargin Targe, or no, not the Splendid screen, the Islander, and of course the weebie booties or the bootleggers. So basically pure demo night, if you like. That's when I really like using the Splendid screen, because when I'm using the grenade launcher, as well as well, the Chargin Targe and the Islander, I do find it to be a lot more reliable, and I don't want to die as much. So I really want to keep my head. Therefore, if my goal is to keep my head counter high, I would prefer to not die as often and just be careful with picking my battles. Therefore, having that that more of a defensive purpose on my shield, you know, with the Chargin Targe, I think it's a lot more reliable. As well as your buffs, your defensive buffs will always be there. Your charge will not always be there. Once you have used your charge, you have to wait for about 12 seconds to get it back, unless you are using the Persian Persuader, but with that comes a whole different set of problems, like you won't be able to pick up ammo and such. Anyway, what do you prefer, guys? Do you prefer to use the Splendid Screen Islander grenade launcher? Are you a big fan of pure demo night, or do you prefer to play it like me, which is Chargin Targe, Islander, and of course, well, the grenade launcher? I don't know, I think that the Splendid screen is also awesome, but I do find that if you're playing against people that are a little bit reasonable in their skill level, I should say, a Chargin Targe will be a lot more beneficial than the Splendid screen. Let me know what you think, and I will catch you guys next time.